Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and everyone who hears or sees this video. My name is Bomer. I'm the author of the book, Consider Islam. This is the series Reasons to Revert. And today we have Sister Debra Mejjot. And Assalamu alaikum, Sister. I thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, brother.
Alhamdulillah. So tell me a little bit about your journey to Islam. But let's start before you knew anything about Islam. What was your religion, if you had one, and tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Certainly. My parents, both of my grandparents came over from Holland. They were very strict Christian Reformed, or
Okay.
Dutch Reformed, as it was referred to. I was brought up in very strict Christian Reformed ideology. I actually, even in Iowa, went to private grade schools, junior high and high schools that were Christian Reformed. Very, very strict upbringing. I got my nursing degree from Iowa Methodist, or Iowa Wesleyan, which is a Methodist college. Very strict Christian theology in my background.
Okay.
I went over to Jerusalem to study and met some amazing Muslim people. It wasn't my intention to go over there and meet amazing Muslim people. I also met amazing Jewish people.
Sure.
But some of the Muslim folks I met had been my friends for 35 years now. I went over, my parents sent me over when I was working on my master's as I was working in religion and philosophy in my studies. And became extremely interested in Islam, extremely. Kind of went through, raising my kids, blah, 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 stepping away from basically any type of organized religions. And then I returned in 2015 to Jerusalem. We met some of the people that I had actually met in the 80s that I have known since the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And went back to the mosque, the call to prayer. I started to remember how awesome that it made me feel, how relaxed that it made me feel, yes. How I felt so connected. I without even crying now, I can't tell you. The connection was like nothing that I ever felt in any of my Bible courses, my religion and philosophy classes,
Sure.
Any of that. I've always had that connection. No. But when I went back over to Jerusalem in 2015, every morning, during the call to prayer, I would run to the window, and we had an end room, my girlfriend and I, and we would look at the mosque and every morning, and it got to be where every morning I found myself drawn to go there, drawn to be part of it. I felt a connection that I'd never felt, ever felt. No. And, it's really hard still for me to talk about. Then, went through a pretty bad divorce, long-term marriage, bad divorce, and met a wonderful man named Hamid through a mutual friend of his and mine. And he came from Morocco. And 3 years ago, I went to Morocco. And what is it, like 98% Muslim country, still always feeling so connected. And his father's house was like, I don't know, half a block from where the mosque, where the masjid was.
Mm-hmm.
And every morning, you know, where other people might be agitated, every morning I felt the contentment and love hearing the call to prayer. And I became, again, so connected, so connected to that feeling. And I had explored it off and on and off and on and off and on. Also coming from a very rigid Christian background, was never encouraged to explore anything to do with Islam.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. You've mentioned on a couple of times already that it was a very strict Christian background. So, you know, was it a situation where your parents were forcing you to go to church or forcing you to accept Christianity? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say, you know, even as a young child, we would go to catechism, which isn't strictly just, you know, Catholics, but also in our religion, we had to go to catechism, and I would spend, you know, all Sunday evenings memorizing. Everybody had to memorize all these verses in the Bible, and on Sunday morning, you never knew if your name was going to be drawn. If your name was drawn, you had to recite it word for word, or else they would beat you with the yardstick, beat you, just absolutely beat you to a pulp.
Literally strike you.
He strike you and beat you. Yeah, leave bruises on your body.
You know, it's interesting hearing that when you know a lot of Christian people, and I mean no disrespect to Christians by no means. As Muslims, we know we're not allowed to ridicule other people's religions and things like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that most Christians, unfortunately, believe, because what they see in the media, and this is what my book is about, alhamdulillah, you know, most people are led to believe that Muslims are forcing Islam on people, and the reality is the people that think this have never had it happen to them personally, nor do they know anyone that's happened to. So,
you're correct.
Yeah, but they're led to believe that it's going to happen in the media. And so here we have a situation where you actually experienced the opposite with Christianity and firsthand. And I find that very, very interesting. So it was that's just one of the examples. And, you know, like you said, the media has folks so scared. Oh, Sharia law, they're trying to bring Sharia law. Yeah. You know what? I was 3 months in Morocco. 3 months. I could only wish for that kind of respect. I'm telling you, Hamid's mother passed away from cancer, you know, like 20 years ago. So his oldest sister has kind of taken on that mother role. But I'm telling you, I wish I could have the respect that Fatima has. It is unreal, the amount of respect that they have for their mothers, that they have for women over there. Yes. Yeah, I can't even describe it. I cannot. We don't have that kind of respect for women over here. We do not. We absolutely do not. Right. The 14th chapter of my book is called The Status of Women. It's titled The Status of Women. And the last chapter is the Day of Judgment. But what I'm doing is it's a continual progression throughout the course of the book, trying to get people to open their minds. And then the grand finale of the book is the status of women, and then ultimately the Day of Judgment. But I have such a great respect for the Muslim women that are true ambassadors of Islam. That you know, Islam does uplift the status of women, where we're not looking at them for their physical appearance, but the way they carry themselves intellectually, their character and those things. And there's no expectation on the woman. So a woman who, let's put it like this, a woman who may have you know, there's very attractive people in the world. There's less attractive people in the world. The hijab in itself is a protection from both of those issues. You know, where a woman is respected for her character and her modesty and her you know, the way she carries herself day in, day out, and not her physical appearance. Be she very, very, very attractive or maybe less attractive. It doesn't matter. It balances the equation. And so I love hearing you talk about that. That's beautiful. So.
Well,
go ahead.
You're so right. Yeah, I mean, you are so on target with that.
Yes.
They do not. I'm telling you, there are some very attractive men in Morocco, and they really give no care, or they don't care. They look inward at their women. They look inward at their mothers, at their sisters, at their mates, at their wives, at their children. They don't care what they look like. Also, the other thing is a nurse. I'm going to tell you, I never saw such respect for special needs people that I saw in Morocco, ever. The whole neighborhood, the special needs guy who lives 2 doors, 3 doors down from Hamid's family, he's everyone's son. He's everyone's brother. He's everybody's responsibility. I don't see that in America. I do not.
Yeah. I don't see it either. You know, all the homeless people. I'm in downtown Houston. I live right here in downtown Houston. There's so many homeless people around, and you know, it's just mind-boggling that we live in the richest country in the world, and you know, so many homeless people and so many people committing suicide, and all the sexual exploitation of the women, and all these things, and it's so hypocritical, you know. And I love the United States, obviously.
I do too, but
it's just a reality. It's very hypocritical, and Islam is the answer for all of it. So let me ask you, you know, what in Christianity in the early days, or you know, in your experience, what was it? Were there questions in your mind about Christianity that was, you know, did you have any questions about the doctrine itself and what you were being taught, that you would question early?
Well, I have to say, you know, as a youngster, I guess I felt a lot of fear. I was just afraid all the time. Because you never really knew, you know, were you in trouble? Were you going to be in trouble? You know, it was very fear-driven. Now, I don't know. I can't say that for all, you know, all Christian people.
Sure.
But I know in my experience, you know, being raised and going to private Christian schools, private Christian colleges, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear of you never would ever want to embarrass your family or anyone. And I get that to a certain extent, but you couldn't ever really self-express.
Sure.
You talk about being oppressed. I wear a hijab, and I am not nearly as oppressed now as what I had been.
Sure.
I am not nearly as oppressed as what my mother and her family was.
Sure.
But, you know, everybody has their own idea of what oppression is. And but I'm going to say fear of, God forbid you make a mistake, you say something wrong, it was just a constant stress as a child. And, you know, having perfect grades and playing basketball perfectly and being the #1 at everything and getting accepted to the best colleges, there was a lot of pressure.
Sure.
Which I did a really good job at. You know, I maintained high grade point averages, excelled on the dean's list, and did all that, but there still was something that wasn't there. And until I did my Shahada, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what it was I was looking for. As you can tell, I'm a relatively new revert, so I've only been, you know, a Muslim for a couple of years, so it's still very emotional for me.
Sure. It's Alhamdulillah. I'm so happy to hear your story. And what, you know, I'm curious as to what you before you accepted Islam and before you took to Morocco, what was your impression of Muslims and Islam as a whole?
Well, like I said, I had retained 25 and 30-year-old relationships and friendships from when I went in the 80s
Sure.
To the Holy Land, to Palestine.
Yeah.
And had the utmost respect for these people. They brought me into their home, and I felt like I was their best friend, and they barely knew me, and they fed me and fed me and fed me and fed me.
Yes, yes.
And I hadn't seen that in America.
Yeah,
that kind of unconditional love.
Yeah. And so did you find primarily, we started hearing more and more about Islam primarily after 9/11. It became
exactly
saturated with Islam. But
when that happened, I was distraught and confused.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my friend Omar and talking to him to please discuss with his father, what is this? What's going on? And I found a real no, this is not these people.
No.
They don't wish this on us. They do not wish this kind of harm. What is going on? And I wouldn't accept it. I could not accept that the people I knew would do such an atrocious thing.
Right, and this has come up in a couple of the different of these Revert videos during the series regarding.
Yeah.
And the reality is that the 19 hijackers, it's a known fact that they were frequenting strip clubs and consuming alcohol and all that the night before the attacks.
Yes.
And so that's not; those aren't religious people going into a holy jihad the next day that are consuming alcohol and focus on strippers the night before. So it doesn't make
exactly.
sense. The reality is that there's so many Muslims in our community: doctors, lawyers, physicians, teachers, professors. The people at the convenience store. They're everywhere. Our next door neighbors. And the fact of the matter is that Muslims are just regular, everyday people, despite their nationality. Everyone's just trying to live their lives and just trying to be happy and raise their children and those things. And so since 9/11, we've seen these continuous attacks in the media with all this propaganda. And so I'm glad that you were able to have those experiences, in the early 80s, to where you could distinguish true Muslims from so-called Muslims. That's extremely important. So, so what was, in regards to the doctrines themselves, as far as Muslims and Islam, we believe in the complete oneness of God. We're a true monotheistic religion. And whereas Christians, there's Unitarian Christians, there's Binitarian, there's Trinitarian Christians. So what were the questions in your mind about Christianity in relation to our God, our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What were the differences that you found, that led you to accept Islam, and what were the questions on your mind regarding Christianity?
Well, I have to say, the thing that was appealing to me was the fact that Islam accepts all of the different prophets.
Absolutely.
It was like, because even now the media is like, Muslims hate Jesus. No, they don't.
No,
they absolutely do not.
Right.
The most common name is Miriam.
Right.
Mary, the mother Mary, Miriam. I'm like, what? And again, I didn't see that openness at all. I mean, it was kind of their way or the highway, and you have to have the Trinity, and Jesus was God, and you have to, and I was like, again, people are entitled to their own beliefs.
Sure.
People, are entitled to live their lives as they see fit. But I never had that, I'm a registered nurse. So in my career and in my life, I've had to accept all sorts of people.
Sure.
Very bizarre home situations, very bizarre interests, very bizarre lifestyles. And I've loved them all the same, and I've treated them all the same, rich or poor, I don't care. I'm still going to treat you. I'm still going to care for you. I'm still going to start your IV. I don't care if you might have a bad disease. I'm still going to be there for you.
Sure, sure.
And I guess, you know, I accept that with Christianity, but may I say, at least the ones that I have dealt with throughout the years, they're so judgmental.
Yeah.
I have not felt that. I have not felt that with my Muslim family, with my Muslim friends. I haven't felt like it's their way or the highway.
Right.
Now, I know the media says, oh, Muslims say if you don't accept Islam, we're just going to kill you, you infidel.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true. You know, when I went to Morocco as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American woman, they all thought I was French, and they'd say bonjour every time they saw me. They had no disrespect for me. I'm pretty sure they understood that I was an American Christian. Mm-hmm. They didn't treat me like an infidel and want to try to kill me or rape me or be bad to me or not speak to me. They took me in. On Eid, I'm going to tell you, on the sheep Eid, the eating sheep Eid, I decided that morning, because I'm a runner, I decided to go out and run that morning, and I was walking around just looking at stuff. When I was running around looking at stuff that morning, as Fatima was busy preparing the meal, I went out and ran. I had 3 people who I don't know, 2 being old men, came up to me, and I don't speak Moroccan Arabic, and tried to pull me up with their families to eat with them.
Oh,
they knew I was an infidel, white American, blue-eyed woman,
sure.
and they were trying to pull me in to have Eid dinner with them.
Sure. There's the blessings involved.
This is the type of people we're dealing with here. These are the not judgmental people. And so when I hear on TV or in the newspaper or on the internet, oh, they want all infidels killed and dead. No, they don't.
No.
Are you kidding me? They want you to come and eat with them.
That's right. just because of the blessings involved in it. That's right. So, yeah, it's beautiful that you've had these experiences, and you know, it's so important for other people. You know, for one, like in my background with Christianity, I can relate to the type of message that you were receiving, because I went to Pentecostal churches, Assemblies of God.
Oh,
and you know, these are fire and brimstone preachers. And matter of fact, the book where, you know, there's a story in the book. Matter of fact, the title of that chapter of the book is titled "They're All Going to Hell," and it's primarily this message that I was continually hearing from Christians, stating that all these different people, including other Christians that believe differently, that they're all going to hell. It's messages of condemnation, you know, fire and brimstone, and if you don't believe the way we believe, you're going to hell. And hearing masses of people being condemned, so-called, by these Christians, and in my mind, I'm thinking, how can this be? How does a merciful God condemn all of these people simply because they believe differently than the group that I currently was associated with at that time? So, yeah, I can certainly relate to that, and I can say in all my years, I've been a Muslim for 31 years and about a month.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and I've never heard any Muslims ever talking like that. You know, trying to, you know, as Muslims, we know that we're not even allowed to try to pretend that we know what's going to happen with someone else on the day of judgment. It's our objective to be concerned with ourselves and our status on the day of judgment. And by no means are we allowed to, you know, attempt to claim or condemn someone else to hell because they believe differently. And yet, in Christianity, it happens continuously. And it's every time I hear those types of things from Christians, and I don't mean to talk bad about Christianity, but it's hearing those things that lets me know continuously that Islam is the answer. You know,
I agree.
Yeah, it's alhamdulillah. It's
Yeah.
truly beautiful. And so let me ask you this: what would be your message to non-Muslims right now that maybe have those same feelings inside of them? They don't really know what to do about it, or they feel like, you know, they can't accept, you know, Jesus, peace and blessing be upon him. If is he the Son of God, or is he God in the flesh? Which one is it? You know, and how does the Holy Spirit fit in, and the whole Trinity situation? There's a lot of confusion there for people, and it's not that we don't understand the concept of what is being taught, but it's just simply illogical. So, what would you say to those people in regards to, you know, considering Islam as an option or an alternative to accept and worship our one true God, you know, our God, our Creator, and worship Him and Him alone,
Right.
no partners and no equals? What would you tell these people?
Oh, yeah, that's a really big question. And I'm thinking of some of my family members who are extremely conservative Christians. I guess I would say, and I'm going to tell you what I did 3 years ago with my really good friend I've already referred to, who married the Bangladeshi guy. What we did, our choice was during Ramadan 3 years ago. And some people might think it was insane, but it worked for us. We read the Quran together every evening. Now, we're corporate people who work long shifts, but we still read the Quran and we read Bible verses together. Mm-hmm. We had one Bible open and one Quran open. And we wanted to examine the similarities, which, believe it or not, there's a lot of similarities.
Sure, sure.
But we also wanted to open our eyes to other thoughts, and I again, you know, I think of some of my family being very closed-minded, and we're never going to change their way of thought. But I guess my big thing is just trying to live my life the best I can, and do the best I can, and be as open-minded as I can.
Sure.
And I struggle with that with one particular cousin who is very evangelical.
Sure.
Very, very, you know, it's her way or the highway. And she used to always post, oh, the crazy Muslims are killing the Christians. The crazy Muslims, oh, look in Africa, they're always killing the Christians. They're killing the Christians here. They're killing. And what I've chosen to do is post things on Facebook such as, look at this Imam. He went into a Catholic church, what I posted yesterday, he went into a Catholic church and he's not like praising, you know, what they're doing, but he's teaching what we're really about, that we're about peace and love, and we're not about going and killing all the Christians. That's what I have tried to do for the last year and a half with her. And what I found is there is a glisten of hope. Every maybe few weeks, I see her posting or I see her liking something that I posted in regards to what Muslims did right, how they helped people, what they did when the temples were bombed, what they did. And I'm going to say a couple years ago, you wouldn't have seen her even acknowledging that.
Sure.
Now, am I ever going to change her mind? Probably not. But I'm hoping that she can realize, you know, we're not all as bad as what the media says we are. And I guess my thought is that with Christians, with some of them, you're never going to change their mind.
Yeah.
But we can just hopefully, you know, talk the talk and walk the walk.
That's right. You know, and that's what I'm addressing in the book, is just trying to get people to open their minds and their hearts to consider how it is that they come to believe what it is that they believe. You know, we've been so overwhelmed by the propaganda in the media against Islam that people are accepting things just simply because they've heard it so many times, and that's how propaganda is utilized. You have certain small phrases, and they're repeated over and over and over again. You know, radical Islam, Islamic Jihad, you know, radical Muslims, you know, and we hear these things over and over again. Sharia, you know, and so people, without looking into the matters for themselves, have just accepted what they've been trained to accept, and so you know, I give what's called dawah classes, and so when I give the dawah class, and this is for people who don't know, that's for how Muslims are to share Islam with non-Muslims, and you know, being active and being you know, being proactive. But there's what's called long-term dawah, and there's also short-term dawah. So what you're engaged in with your cousin is long-term dawah, where just consistently through your character, through time, and through just trying to share and utilize those opportunities to share with her, even if you're just making a post on social media, that she's going to see it. This is a long-term dawah where you begin to change the perception of Islam for people, and let them realize that, you know what, these Muslims aren't really what the media is trying to portray them as, and that's our obligation as Muslims to share the truth and the beauty of Islam through our character in our everyday lives. And and by no means
you're right.
You know, I'm sure you know, your cousin may be one that thinks that at some point in time Muslims are going to come to try to force Islam on her, and that's what many non-Muslims believe. Many people who have this fear, they think that Muslims are conspiring to try to take over and try to force people to accept Islam, and that's simply irrational. And I usually, you know, try to explain it through the use of a sports analogy, where if you're the coach of a football team, or if you're the boss, or, you know, owner of a corporation or a business of some kind, trying to force someone to play on your team, or trying to force someone to be one of your employees is irrational, because it may be that not only do they not want to play on your team, or they not want to work for you, they may not want to play in that sport or work in that field of work at all. So trying to force someone to accept what you believe is just simply irrational. We have to just do it through a continuous and, you know, and being patient in the process, a continual long-term effort to just share the truth and the beauty of Islam. And then when we have those short interactions with people, you know, short periods of time, just try to be polite and be kind. And just like you mentioned about the people in Morocco trying to invite you in or Jerusalem, wherever you mentioned it was, where they're trying to invite you in for Eid. Those are just short periods of time where we have the opportunity to share the truth and the beauty of Islam by our actions and our deeds on a consistent basis. So that's truly beautiful. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day on this Monday morning during the month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, to come on and talk with me. It's very important that we express to non-Muslims, you know, our stories of how we came to accept Islam and why, because many of those people have the same thoughts and the same feelings and the same questions on their mind that we did before we accepted Islam. So
exactly. Now there is a question that I have with a follow-up, though.
Okay, sure.
You know, I had an amazing experience in Palestine. 3 times I've been to Palestine. Amazing. I had 3 amazing months in Morocco, full of so much support. But my concern as a revert, convert, whatever you want to call me, is the follow-up. And you have to understand, I'm on RN, I used to work for the government, who's way into action plans and follow-up and how are you going to keep this from, you know, not working ever again. My question is, when you get back then to reality and to the United States, my concern is the follow-up. I'm very alone here.
Yeah.
I'm very alone. The couple, now, when I was down in Louisville area, I did talk to the Imam a couple times. He was from Palestine. I kind of connected. He, was helping me through some Ramadan questions and a few others. Then I moved up into northern Indiana, and nobody, they're from Burma. They don't speak English. They don't speak Arabic. They only speak their language. And it's very difficult for me. I'm going to say, I know that I would watch my mother when somebody would get baptized into their Christian church. Oh my gosh, all the old ladies would go there, and all the young ladies would go there and to her house, and everybody had her over, and they would play cards, and they would follow up, and they would have her at Sunday school, and they would, there's nothing. When you get back here to northern Indiana, you're on your own.
Sure.
There is nothing here. There is nowhere for me to reach out. And that is the one thing, even to Kaliha, some of my Facebook friends, I have reached out to them, and there's only so much they can do from many states away.
Sure.
But my concern, and maybe something that we can work at as a group, as a task force in the future, maybe a future book, some kind of follow-up, how can we support us reverts going forward?
Yeah, and I mentioned to you that a brother from Egypt, he approached me. He knew I wrote the book, and he approached me, and his idea is to create a pamphlet for traditional Muslims, people that are born into Islam, to address some key points about how to interact with reverts and what the traditional Muslims, what their responsibilities are. And the fact of the matter is that we all play key roles in keeping one another, on the straight path of Allah. And so, the matter of fact, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that the Muslim is to be a mirror to his brother. And so this means that when we see someone getting off course, we try to bring them back on course. And if they need guidance, we try to help them. If they need help financially, and all these things, which we need to try to be the best examples that we can be. And the fact of the matter is that the traditional Muslims, people born into Islam, they have a lot of knowledge that the reverts need. And on the flip side of that, now there are situations where sometimes it is a fact of the matter that the reverts have done a lot more study than the traditional Muslims, and that might, the traditional Muslims are sometimes they're born into Islam, and so it's just become their way of life, just like people who were born into Christianity or Islam or whatever, and they accept what they believe just by tradition, and maybe their heart's not fully in it. Because their heart's not fully in it, maybe they don't seek knowledge the way they should. But the reverts, the converts, have actually sought knowledge on their own and made the choice to accept Islam based on their own desire, their own, Allah leading them to the truth, based on study and opening their hearts and their minds to these things. And so there's a lot of different issues that are involved here. Whereas, for one, when a revert steps into a masjid or a mosque, for one, sometimes people are startled, especially if they see people that are Caucasian or they see people that don't look like they do. Then some
people like you and I.
Yes, people like you and I, they're somewhat a little bit surprised, and they're a little bit shocked, and maybe they part of them is excited about it, and then also a part of them may be a little bit hesitant about what the objective is. Okay, because the reality is that we live in an era where people do try to infiltrate. That they think the Muslims are up to no good, and so they'll send spies into the mosque or to the masjid, and that's an uncomfortable reality, but that's something that is on the hearts and the minds of some of the Muslims, where they think, well, what is this person really about? Is this a true Muslim, or is this someone who has an agenda, or whatever the case might be? so that's one aspect of it. But also, if we consider that people are just generally sometimes they're shy to about approaching someone that they don't know, about approaching strangers, or maybe they feel like if they're from other countries, maybe they feel like their English is not good enough, and they're somewhat conscious of that, and they feel a hesitation there about interacting just simply because of their their speech or whatever. And so there's so many different dynamics there, but the reality is that we should, as brothers and sisters in Islam, brothers and sisters in humanity, we should, when we see other Muslims, and for the most part we do, we see these Muslims and they're like our brothers and sisters despite their nationality, despite their race, we embrace one another. But sometimes in the complexity of the masjid, it's different than the church, where the church is more, it seems like a social event where all the music is played and putting on their Sunday best and all those things. But a key point that needs to be pointed out is this, which is the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, told the Sahaba, his companions, to reduce conversation in the masjid. And the reason he said this is because when the masjid is a place of sujood, a place of prostration, a place of prayer where we come and we focus on Allah, we focus on our Creator. And so if there's excess conversation in the masjid, if people are talking about politics, or they're talking about sports, or they're talking about all these other things, that what it is a distraction from focusing on what we're there for. We're there for to go to prayer. And so that's one aspect of it. Whereas the church is more of a social occasion where they get up and dance in front of some churches. They're going to get up and do praise dances. They're going to sing songs. They're going to play the drums. They're going to, all those things. And all those things are distracting from the true reason why we're there, which is to worship our God, our Creator. And so, of course, in Islam, we don't have those things. And so that's another element to it, whereas sometimes people are reluctant to they don't want to bother someone who's coming for prayer. Maybe their time is limited, because we go to prayer so many times during the day. Sometimes people have to leave work just in time enough to go to prayer, and then they have to leave immediately. And so in those instances, it reduces the opportunity for conversation. So with the sisters, maybe they work or maybe they don't work, but it's the same dynamic. Maybe they have to get to the children. There's so many different issues there that we should consider. But the fact of the matter is that you are totally correct that we have to reach out to people who have newly accepted Islam. And,
one example is, and I'm sorry, it is what it is. I had to go on YouTube to figure out how to do prayers.
Sure.
Now, my husband who's done this since he was a wee child, does it 5 times a day, does it with a miraculous absoluteness. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what I should say. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know when to do it. I came back here to the United States like, I shouldn't have to go to YouTube to learn how to pray. I called all the Islamic centers in this city and 3 mosques. And nobody would help me. They wouldn't return my calls, or they said they were going to help me and have sisters call me, and the sisters never did. Or the sisters said they could help me, but never called back again. And I guess I'm kind of like, now that's a broken spike in the wheel. That's a broken spike for new Revert.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought this up, because these are things that we need to. These are things that are going to be in the pamphlet, when I get to putting that together.
Perfect. I love it. I love it already.
Yeah, and so I want to point out a couple of things about this issue, about the prayer in particular, where or anything in general, but since you used the example of the prayer, the blessings come from Allah when people do take time out, and if we guide anyone to any good whatsoever, then Allah's giving us so much reward, so many blessings for that. Sometimes we get the blessings in this life. Sometimes it's reserved for us in the hereafter. Sometimes we get blessings in both. And so those opportunities for the traditional Muslims to take time out of their lives and of their day, and to show the new Muslims the reverts, how to go to prayer, and what does this mean, and why are we doing this? Those are opportunities to receive so many blessings that they're passing up. And in the same token, the fact that you took time out to go to YouTube and you sought this knowledge on your own, the blessings for you also, they're increased because you did it all on your own. Alhamdulillah. You know, so what I'm trying to point out here is the reality is that despite how people treat us, you know, okay, in this world, what it boils down to is we're all going to stand before Allah on the Day of Judgment, and Allah's going to ask us a series of questions. He's going to ask us, what do we do with our life? He's going to ask us about our youth and how do we spend our time. He's going to ask us about how did we acquire our wealth and what do we do with our wealth. And the last question, the most important of all, is what do we do with our knowledge? And this question is the most important of all because it's what it encompasses all those other questions completely. Because the people that are seeking the knowledge, you know, we're going to stand before Allah, and He's going to hold us accountable for everything that we've done in this world. And so the people that pass up the opportunity to show you how to pray, and to pass up the opportunity to go out and to share Islam, or to be proactive and do things that we should do on a continuous basis as Muslims, they're going to be reminded of that on the Day of Judgment. In the same token, you're going to be reminded on the Day of Judgment, alhamdulillah, you're going to receive so many blessings for the fact that you accepted Islam without anyone, you know, it was all your choice, and your choice to learn about the prayer and all the knowledge that you have. You know, you've sought it out yourself, and so there's so many blessings. And so I'm telling you this because I encourage you and to not be discouraged by the failure of people, when the reality is that Allah has guided you to Islam, and that's what's most important. That's what's going to be the most crucial and the vital thing, most important thing on the Day of Judgment. Allah is going to remind you of all the things that you've done, good and bad, in this world, and the good far outweigh the bad. Alhamdulillah, we receive so many blessings for the good things that we do and seeking knowledge. And when we stumble through the prayer as reverts, because it's not our natural, you know, Arabic is not our natural language, and that's the case with most Muslims in the world, by the way. The people that are going through the process of learning and keep striving and all those things, there's so much reward in it. So please don't be discouraged by the people that have failed to reach out to you or try to answer your questions and all those things. I know it's we're human, and it is discouraging, it is disheartening, but you have so much reward by the fact that you still believe in the oneness of Allah. You still accept all of the prophets, peace and blessings be upon them all, and you still are guided on the straight path of Allah, despite what people do or what they don't do. You know, so I want to encourage you by that, inshallah, because that's truly important. But the pamphlet, I'm gonna work on the pamphlet, and inshallah it'll be dispersed to worldwide if possible, and to address that very issue, and maybe I'll do some speeches here and there about that topic, because it's so important. The Muslims have a responsibility to one another, and alhamdulillah.
Perfect. Well, I have so enjoyed my conversation with you, and if you ever want me in any of your task force, please ask. If you know, my husband speaks French, English, Moroccan Arabic, and Arabic. If you ever need anything translated or information passed on to Morocco, or information passed on to Palestine, I would be more than willing to assist you in however I can. And if I can be of any comfort or any support to further Revert, you know, I'm an old RN, and I love to teach. You know, I've muddled through many things in my life, made a lot of mistakes, but did a few things right, and I'm so happy that I met you. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's been a great honor for you to take time out to come on. And your story is so it's so uplifting. You know, the mere fact that you had these friends in the early '80s that y'all were obviously close friends that had, and those relationships were the first seeds that were planted towards your
yes.
Being led to Islam. So alhamdulillah,
Yes.
may Allah reward all those people that gave all those good impressions and befriended you, and all the people that you encountered in Morocco and in your other, and alhamdulillah, it's truly, truly beautiful. And the mere fact that you're mentioning people of other countries, where people in this country think that the Muslims in the other countries are wild savages trying to
Yes.
put Sharia on the world, is truly beautiful. Whereas you see your experiences here at home are somewhat the complete opposite. So it's truly a very beautiful story, and I'm very excited to have had this discussion with you, and I truly am honored. So I'm gonna let you continue with your day, and
Okay.
Ramadan Mubarak.
You too.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and your family, and have mercy on each and every one of us on the Day of Judgment. So before we go, I am the author of the book Consider Islam, Kenny Bomer. You can go to www.kennybomer.com, although you may have to use the http:// before the www for some reason on some search engines, but go to kennybomer.com. You can purchase the book on the website or on Amazon. It's better if you purchase
Amazon. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Amazon is better. That way they track all the sales, and also be sure to leave a review if you do purchase the book, inshallah, God willing. And I'm not trying to get rich off of the book. I'm just trying to simply share the truth and beauty of Islam, and break down all the misconceptions and the misunderstandings that people have based on what we see in the media. And so may Allah accept my efforts, and may accept your efforts, and guide us all to more truth and understanding, more wisdom, and may He have mercy on each one of us on the Day of Judgment. So, sister, once again, Debra, I sure appreciate you very, very much. And so I'll leave you by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.